Randy Eberhard. Been in Atlanta all my life. Been on Young Life staff. It's an outreach ministry to high school kids, middle school kids, college kids, and then it results into family ministry for 35 years in the Atlanta area. And I'm also the family recovery counselor for LifeGate Counseling Group. So see a lot of crisis and deal with crisis, and that's what I'm called to do with families. 45 years ago, I was dating my now wife, that we've been married 45 years, and she took me to a Young Life camp as a volunteer leader. And I sat in the back of the room as a college student. I was still in college at the time, and they wanted me to learn how to become a Young Life leader, and grew up in the church, but it never heard the gospel the way that was presented, in the clarity with no judgment, no strings attached. And I listened to it, and at the time I was playing small college baseball for Mercer in Atlanta. Back in those days, they had a baseball program for 13 years, so I played shortstop for them for 4 years. And I went back and I thought half our team were Christians and half our team wasn't. And I was kind of, one Friday night I'd go with one half and Saturday night I'd go with the other. And I heard the gospel and I thought, man, this is true, but I'm not going to say anything to anybody. I'm going to wait a year and I'm going to come back, and if I feel the same way, then I know this is the truth. I don't recommend that to anybody, to wait a year, but I did. I went back and I realized, sitting there in that room that night, that it was true, and that I knew my life was going to change. Didn't know how, but that's how the Lord came over me and revealed himself to me. I'm going off the word purpose, as purpose on tap. So, I'll talk to the guys about cast off everything that hinders, what's causing delay in your life to what might be your purpose, and get them to start thinking about maybe your purpose is not about you, but it's about something bigger than you. And what would that look like? And I know in my own life, as being older, when I surrender and give up my right to be right and live into God's purposes, freedom and peace come, the peace that passes all understanding that we're all after, but a lot of us don't find it, so we try to numb that up, a lot of times with alcohol and drugs. And I'll refer to that a little bit about, it's the identity in Christ, and what does that look like, and that's all about surrender. And I want to present that in a grace-based way. I don't want to sales pitch anybody tonight, but that's my heart, and that I know that these guys, and my heart is, I hope some of these guys could really come away and really find some freedom and some peace, be able to take a deep breath. It takes a little while, but it might take a year like I did, but that's okay. That's what I'd like to get across tonight. If you live your purpose for God and you discover what God would want you to do. I sold my insurance agency years ago, and I made good money, and I walked away from that because God said, I need you over here. So it might not be easy, but it is the best thing you can possibly do, live in God's will. If you give that up, and that's a whole bunch of dying at the foot of the cross, if you really do that, then your life you'll be able to, as the Lord says in the Old Testament, 10 will be able to run after the 100 and defeat them. 10,000 will be able to run after the 100,000 and defeat them. You will do things that you never thought you could accomplish if you live in God's purposes, and that's what I would like to give them. I would really like to give them some hope.
It's intangible and it's impactful, and it's my honor to welcome Randy to the stage.
All right. Okay, thanks for letting me be here. It's an honor and a privilege to get to talk to you guys. So I'm a special ops guy for Young Life. I've been on Young Life staff for years and years and years. So I cut a deal with Young Life, said, listen, the LifeGate folks over at Peachtree Pres have been after me for literally 12 years. Some of y'all know Todd Sandell, and we're real close. And now Ryan Jackson's the director now. But
so I went over there, and Ryan's awesome. Just thrilled to get to be alongside of them. But so I went to Young Life, and I said, listen, let me reduce my pay, because they said, well, we want to do this urban rebuild. That's your deal, the inner city kids. Between Midtown and Peachtree City, there's 80 schools that Young Life's not into, and not many other people are in there either serving them. And they're predominantly African-American school, middle school, and high school. So I've always been that guy, the furthest out kid, you know, that kind of deal. And now it's the furthest out adult and the furthest out family. And, you know, I work with parents, and there's one book that I saw the title of today that is really amazing. I'm not crazy, I'm codependent. Going, yeah, baby, I love that stuff, you know. So anyway, so we're doing all this inner city work. So you can imagine, I'm going from the hood, and in 30 minutes, I'm meeting a multimillionaire at Lifegate that's drunk, you know. And it's like, and a lot of my guys show up drunk, you know, and the Lifegate people are so nice, they don't recognize it, because they're all marriage and family therapists. Me, I'm a rehab guy. So I'm going, hey man, you've been hitting it, hadn't you? You know, that kind of deal. And they go, look, Randy, I didn't, you know, like that. And I went, look, man, I'm not your police officer. I don't care. You know, it's okay. Let's enjoy the time together, you know, that kind of deal. And they said, well, what are we going to talk about? And I said, I'm also not going to sales pitch you either. You know, I'm here to give you information and love on you, because you're in a bad place, man, and we've all been there, including me. And so we got this job program, vocational program. We're just starting at Urban Young Life. So we got 35 black kids 2 days ago show up with Tommy Holder, who was just wonderful, who's a donor to our urban rebuild deal. And Tommy met us at the job site over there at Perimeter Mall, where they're building the State Farm complex. So we're over there, and the guys, you know, Holder guys met us there, and we're in a room, you know, and there's tables, and there's 35 black kids sitting in there, and they're just wonderful, just unbelievable. And so John, the guy that's in charge of this project, is over there, and they're all in jeans and hard hats, and you know, the yellow vests and all this stuff. So it's a construction site. So the kids are sitting there, and we're going to tell them about how you can improve your life, how you can get a job, and so forth and so on. And incidentally, I work with a lot of privileged white guys that don't have a job. Okay, so I'm not, it's all across the board, okay? So anyway, these kids who I love dearly, and they're sitting there, and they all call me coach. I quit coaching a couple years ago, and I thought I'd have buyer's remorse the next morning when I told Coach Muschamp I wasn't going to coach anymore. And I woke up the next morning, my eyes open, and I knew I was going to go, and I felt so good that I'm not coaching. You know, it was one of the most peaceful moments of my life. It was great. So anyway, we're going to talk a little bit about cast off everything that hinders tonight, but anyway, or what's causing delay in your life. And coaching finally got in the middle of what I needed to be doing. So anyway, so John, the foreman, gives this unbelievable, this is what you can do. And then they had a guy come in and say, I started as a laborer for $13 an hour, and I worked my way up to making $55,000 an hour. $55,000 a year. And to these kids, man, it was like it was a big deal. Okay, it's a life changer. All right, and I'm about life change. I'm an impact player kind of guy, and it's like I like to take the worst and make them the best. And I'm a coach. I'm a recovery coach, counselor, but I'm also in marriages and everything else. I think I've officiated 70 weddings in this community over the years. But anyway, so after it was done, John goes, "Is there any questions?" And all this opportunities out there, you know. And the first kid raised their hand. I'm going, God, this is good. We got engagement. This is good. And the kid goes, well, how many breaks do you get? And I went, oh God, no, don't ask that. That's not. How many breaks do we get? Pretty good question. Pretty good question, because I think we all ask that. For me, years ago, I owned an insurance agency. I went down to South Georgia. It was a renewal on one of my accounts, and it was a huge account. It was Safeco's account of the month in the United States of America. So the vice president of sales and all these muckety mucks flew out of Seattle to come take me to dinner, and that kind of deal. Don't think I'm crazy, but this is what God will do. I was a volunteer leader for Young Life for a long time, and I had my agency for 20 years at least, and volunteered for Young Life for all those years. And so I got in the car after we wrote this account, and I made a lot of money. And I got in the car and I was the lead. I was running North Springs High School Young Life at the time. And I got in the car and I called my leadership team, we were all volunteers. And I said, hey guys, this is great. I'm gonna get back for club tonight. I could have cared less about the money now. Y'all, I love money. But it was like God tapped me on the shoulder and said, Randy, I'm gonna need you to go over here and do this. And through the years, one day at a time, I've had to let a lot of stuff go and make a lot of sacrifices. And I'm not talking about financially, I'm talking about emotionally. I'm talking about spiritually. When God calls you into something, you think it's going to be easy. You say, well, it's supposed to be easy, right, God? And that's our Western culture, and that's prosperity gospel. It's become more subtle. Now, if you give to the church, we're not going to promise you a Cadillac in your driveway, but we're going to promise you good times. You're going to be so happy. Well, sometimes you're not going to be happy. Sometimes you're not. That's reality. Now, what do they say in counseling? And you pick your field. I'm a reality therapist, but man, I love people because I've been down probably deeper than anybody probably I see, and maybe not sometimes. But Susie and I are at the beach. We get a call in the middle of the night, and our son had been killed. And he got drunk one night, got out in the street, got hit and killed on the scene. So we're driving back in the middle of the night. So the process begins, right? And I know you guys have been through a lot of pain, a lot of hurt, a lot of stuff. And it doesn't have to be that bad, but probably some of y'all have been through that. And so I felt like, okay, I got to rebuild my life, and I'm on the mat, I'm down. I'm like 2 broken legs, and it's like a guy came in the other day at Lifegate, and he's 53 years old. And, every story, one of our rehab questions is, how do you think this is going to end? And he was drinking pretty bad. Has been for a number of years. He's beginning to get health problems, got all this stuff. And he said, but I really don't have a drinking problem. And I'm not making fun of that, okay? I'm not. But he said, I really don't. It's just other things, And I go, well, what's the other things, man? And he said, well, my wife hates me. And I said, well, do you hate her? And he said, yeah, I do. And I said, well, who started hating who first? And he goes, well, that's an unfair question. And I went, I don't know. It's something we probably need to think through a little bit. I said, you ever heard that old country music song that whiskey's not the only thing you got on the rocks? Right? Whiskey's not the only thing you got on the rocks. My marriage is on the rocks. My job's on the rocks. My emotions are out of control. I got anxiety through the roof, and all these things. And I love that because the ultimate healer in that is God, and I've found that to be true. And excuse me for saying bad words. After what I've been through, that's no BS. Because you finally come to a place where you got nowhere else to go. You're done. You're done. So I'm on the mat, and y'all have heard the story. 4 friends dragged a guy out on the mat. I felt like I had 2 broken legs. I'm down on the mat. I can't move, man, in life. I was getting up and going through the motions, but it wasn't good. I was down. So some people came alongside of me, just like the friends that drugged a paralytic in front of Jesus. And here this guy's sitting, and I've read that story so many times, and I'm going, well, I'm that guy because I got 2 broken legs. See, after you have grief, and some of y'all been through this, I know this to be true. You want to get up and run as fast as you can, but you have 2 broken legs and you can't run. And you're driving yourself crazy. I started drinking at that. What did I really drink at? Not Drew's death. I was drinking at me not being in control and being the king of my own kingdom. God's purpose means that you give up your right to be right. That's a long journey, everybody. That doesn't happen overnight, and that ain't gonna happen right here. Well, Randy said this, dadgummit, I'm raising my hand, you know. I mean, it's like, let's go on up in here and become jumpers, you know. It's like, no. It hurts. It's a painful process because you're letting go. You're letting go. So I'm on the mat. Jesus is looking down at me. And I was mad at Jesus anyway. It's like, hey, by the way, I didn't know if you noticed this or not, Jesus, but I really don't want to spend a whole lot of time with you. I work for you. I run a ministry. You let me down. We're thinking God is promising us something, and we're looking in the wrong direction, everybody. God does not promise easy. He promises calling. And that calling brings the peace that passes all understanding. If I walk away from my manufacturer's account and I'm living into what God's purposes is, it has not been easy, but it's been peaceful. So Jesus is looking at me, and I'm looking at him, and I'm okay, all right, dadgummit, fix my legs. I want to get back up and walk. So let's go. And he said, hey, Randy, your sins are forgiven. I went, what? Say what? I got this situation over here. I don't care about this situation over here. You're coming into my life and you're telling me my sins are forgiven? I need my legs fixed, dude. Now, you know how you go to the mountaintop? Well, I learned that you learn more in the valley than you do at the mountaintop. And we have a saying in rehab, you're either on the way or you're in the way. Tonight we got to talk about, are we in our own way? Are you either on the way for God's purposes or are you in the way? So I had to come to terms with, after I calmed down, which took a couple of years. Sorry, just being real. I calmed down and I started listening. You know, good counselors listen. Good husbands listen. Good partners listen. Good friends listen. And I wanted to do most of the talking with Jesus because I was mad. You know how you get mad and you just go. You're just going off, you know. Doesn't make any sense, but you're going off. Do you know when I send folks to anger management stuff, anger kicks in the same chemicals in the brain that a six-pack does. It calms you down. So you get addicted to the anger cycle. And people go, Ray, I don't know why I get mad. And I said, I do. It's addictive. It's okay. If you figure this stuff out, you can get up off the mat. Years back, I was at Young Life Camp. A guy was a speaker was the area director in Charleston, South Carolina, and he was a lifeguard. And he was telling me this story. He told the story at camp one time. He said, you know, there was an elderly couple, and they went swim. They went out. Well, they got caught in a current, and they got swept out beyond where they needed to be, or beyond where the waves were breaking and all that. They were out there, and they were in harm's way, and they couldn't get back. So the pier was kind of right next to them, so they made it over to the last piling on the pier, and they grabbed onto that thing, and they were holding on for dear life. And I mean literally life, because they were done. And they had no strength, they had no energy, they were done. Lifeguard goes out, has flotation devices, has everything they need to save them. And they wouldn't let go. And he said, if you let go, you will drift right towards me. It's okay. I'm safe. It's all right. I can get you to shore. And they wouldn't let go. The only problem with that was when they were holding on, there were barnacles all over the piling, and they were getting shredded. They were getting cut to pieces, but they wouldn't let go. My question tonight is, what do you need to let go of that's cutting you to pieces? What is it? What's cutting you to pieces? Because if God says, Randy, I don't want you to sell insurance anymore. I need you to go over here, and I need you to trust me. I don't like that word sometimes. I take it a day at a time, right? I got to trust you, God. After what we've been through. So, Jesus said, Randy, your sins are forgiven. I don't judge you. I'm not your police officer, and I'm not going to sales pitch you. I love you. You got to kind of figure that out. But once you do, your life's going to change, and you're going to take a deep breath and go, the one thing that I can claim tonight, the one thing that I can claim is that I know that God loves me. And if I could just deal with that over the next year, if you just deal with that, and then you live into God's purpose, that you love yourself like God loves you, that will allow you to love others like God loves them. If you live into that, and that alone, and you let everything else go, you'll take that deep breath down by the river, and you'll sit there and go, let the sunshine hit your face and go, well, I didn't believe this was possible, especially in Atlanta, Georgia. There's no breaks with God. I found that to be exhausting until I surrendered. I gave up my right to be right. It's like our kid. Well, how many breaks do you get? You don't get breaks with God. And you go, well, I want a break. If you're living in a relationship with God, and he says we worship in spirit and truth, do you think God's the truth? Because it's a heart connection. So I started realizing all the things that were cutting me to pieces were in my heart, and God wanted to move in there, but God doesn't like roommates. He wants to get in there and go wide open with this thing. And it will change your life. Now, I've had people say, and I've said it to myself, well, that's scary. I kind of like living in my misery. We say in the rehab, it's like a frog. If you put a frog in cold water and you turn the heat up, that frog will stay in there until he dies. Right? Where's this end? If the water's boiling and you take the frog that's not used to the boiling water and throw him in there, he'll jump out. We're on a slow burn, everybody. We're on a slow burn. We're in that pot. And we're not going to jump out we'll live in that pot until we die. Unless a truck comes by or something, and then you're going to jump out. Randy, your sins are forgiven. So what does that mean? And we're not going to get all into that. What it does mean is I had to say, okay, then my separation is over. So God, you're here. My anger is sin at you. So I'm going to remove that, and I'm going to be here, and now we're going to come here. Sin is separation from God. We don't need to complicate it. And we don't need to drag it through the mud, be all judgmental. And like I said, I ain't your police officer. And by the way, neither is God. He's not going to call you out. He doesn't. You are white as snow. And you're going, no, dude, I'm not white as snow. Hey, look, brother, I've heard it all and I've done it all. So it's okay. It's okay. It's all right. It's like Brene Brown said, the psychologist, research, I've heard, seen her on TED Talk and all that other stuff. I am enough. Well, if we live in sin and separation from God, our self-esteem is going to be ripped to shreds, just like those barnacles ripped those people. Self-esteem is the first thing that goes. Guilt and shame comes in and replaces that. And then all of a sudden you start drinking at that pretty daggum hard. Is there freedom? I'm living proof that there's freedom. And it has not been easy. I'm the last person that needs to be standing up here in front of y'all. I can tell you that. But by the sacrifice of Christ that joined me with him, I can say, I'm just like you guys. We're all sinners. There's only one guy that got out of the boat to walk on the water. The other 11 stayed in. That's us chickens, right? I'm okay with that. I'm okay with that. Here's my ask of you guys. I don't have any right to ask you, but I'll do it in the name of love. Start thinking about your purpose not being your own. Start thinking about your purpose being what God tapped you on the shoulder to do. Because in the Old Testament, the Israelites were outgunned. They were outmanned. And the Lord said, if you are with me and you abide in me, I can get 10 to chase the 100 and beat them, and I can get 10,000 to chase the 100,000 and beat them. And he can take the one and win. Our world needs to see kingdom winners. Not that you're going to be perfect. I'm not saying to go to the Georgia Tech game and drink, because Lord knows to watch Tech you got to drink. But I mean, my cousin discovered. I give my drink tickets on club level. We renewed our season tickets. Why we run into the brick wall, and he goes down there and he says, "Hey Randy, you know, you get the 2 drink tickets like you do here when you go down there. But if you slip them $5, they'll give you more. They'll give you another can of beer. You know, y'all probably know that. But all the guys we sit with, they're all Georgia Tech students. The only reason I go there is I sold Cokes at the Georgia Tech games when I was in middle school. So I love Georgia Tech. You know, I watched 6th, 7th, and 8th grade. Coca-Cola, you know, pushing Cokes. But that was back when they were in the Southeastern Conference. That was good stuff back in those days, you know. I made a lot of money off of Auburn kids because they'd throw money, $100 bills down from the stands, you know, and say, we need the whole tray, you know, and going, okay. So purpose is a very difficult thing to surrender. Start leaning on each other. You heal in community. You don't heal alone. You don't do this journey alone. You got people. You got Rev Allen here, that's the chaplain at Lovett, but is available to the community. You got Tucker Yates, who's available to the community. You got the board here. You got Clayton, David, and Matt. You got people here, but you got people everywhere. I'm at Lifegate, Peachtree Press. Give me a call. Come on by. you want to talk about this stuff, man, it's my joy to do it. All right? So guys, what are you holding on to that's cutting you to pieces? So anyway, I'm going to open up for questions and answers, but thanks for letting me share with you. Yeah. All right. So I don't know, we got 10 minutes or so, Clayton, David, or questions, any questions, something? We won't be here long, but.
Do you drink anymore?
Excuse me?
Do you drink anymore?
No, my doctor won't let me. But I'm serious, brother. You know, do I want to go over there and get me 2 beers? Yeah. But no, I don't. But that's a great question. We all get motivated to change, you know. My doctor motivated me, so. I got the perfect trifecta. I'm a type 2 diabetic. I've always had high triglycerides since I was a kid. It's heredity. And when he told me I couldn't drink, I got mad at him and I went, hey dude, I do your recommendation. You said I could drink 2 drinks. That's 14 drinks a week. The American Medical Association, you know. And he said, yeah, well, guess what? Now this is bedside manner. And he goes, yeah, guess what? Life's not fair. I went, well, I've heard that before. So thank you, doctor. So, but that's a great question. Thanks, Brad.
If it wasn't for the medical, though, would you not drink? Because I know you've used it in the past. Would you just cut it off if it wasn't for your doctor?
Yeah, I'm one of those guys that don't need to drink. Yeah. And that's what, I know the pain. And, you know, we say the pain of, you're not going to change unless the pain of staying the same becomes greater than the pain of having to change. Well, it's painful to give up drinking. Really painful. And I love to walk with people through that. But when these consequences, like this guy, hey, your whiskey ain't the only thing on the rocks, and your consequences start coming into your life, alcohol will always go this way. It will always grow, and it may take 20 years, but it's an addictive drug. So you either have to make a decision to make it go this way, and some of y'all could drink, but maybe need to taper it down a little bit, and you'll be all right. And there's some that you go, I'm not going to drink. I love to walk with guys through that. And call me, man. Give me a call. But great question. Yeah. Yeah.
So I guess kind of in your story, you lived with being an at-risk individual yourself, and you also work with at-risk individuals through Young Life. How do you, as a leader, recognize at-risk people and try to pull them into the light and motivate them to kind of self-delegate tasks to become motivated themselves?
Yeah, that's a great question. Everybody has their own style and personality and calling and God. There's some wonderful pastors that chase after, you know, the 99, that great song that's out there. Love that song. Jesus will leave the 99 to go after the one, and what a great song. My deal is it's ministry of availability. I just show up. And if somebody's saying, all right, that guy, I can talk to that guy, then I'm around. And I'm highly visible. I believe that, and I've always told my Young Life staff this, said if you're sitting behind a desk, we're losing money. Right? I mean, get out there. The community needs to see people, you know. But I'm not saying that's the only way. I'm saying that everybody's got to discover, you know, that deal, because I love the people that have chased after me that I needed, you know. So, yeah.
Sir, what are you reading right now?
I'm sorry.
What are you reading right now?
Well, I always read the Bible. I've got a recovery Bible, a life recovery Bible that is phenomenal, y'all. And you can look at it online. It's a life recovery Bible. It will give all kind of devotions in there, serenity prayer devotions, 12-step devotions, and things like that. I'm rereading Mere Christianity. And there's a guy that started Dunklin Memorial Camp, a recovery program in Central Florida years and years ago, Lewis Carey. I don't even know if you can find this book anymore, but this is where, have y'all ever heard of No Longer Bound recovery deal? Okay, well, our oldest son went through No Longer Bound 18 years ago, and Rand, some of y'all know Rand, he's Director of Congregational Care at Church of the Apostles. And Rand and I do a lot of business together. He'll send me somebody, I'll send him somebody, and so forth and so on. But this guy, that ministry seeded No Longer Bound. A guy named Mike Harden went there after Vietnam, and he was a helicopter pilot, combat pilot, and got addicted to drugs, came back and went to Dunklin Memorial years ago and started No Longer Bound. So Lewis Carey writes Letters to a Disciple, and I'm reading that right now, and that's strong. That's no play. That will call you out, but you know, at some point you need to be challenged. Yeah. So I read a lot of stuff, but that's right now. That's what I'm kind of really pouring into. But yeah, do I ever get overwhelmed? And I know all of y'all get overwhelmed. For sure, especially if some of you all are raising young families. You don't have any time. You're tired. You know, they say Satan's the author of confusion. I'm saying when you're tired is when you get attacked most, right? Like you see the Discovery Channel and the wildebeest that wears out, they're going to go after that one. And I'm going, I can't watch that. Oh, don't get tired, you know. But great question, though, because when I do get tired, I used to drink at being tired. I needed to get back up. I got to go. And I didn't think, I never got drunk. I mean, that sounds stupid. I don't like the feeling. I've never smoked marijuana before. I've never taken drugs. I don't like liquor. I hate liquor. I don't like being drunk. I don't like taking medication that makes me feel, I don't like not knowing where I am and what's going on. But here's what'll kill you. The sneakiness of drinking it being tired, and I would come home and I'd drink 4 beers. Now to me, being a type 2 diabetic, 4 beers ain't good for daddy. And it got to be a habit. Right? How you think is how you feel. Well, I was thinking I was tired, so I felt tired. How you think is how you feel, and how you feel is how you act. And that act becomes a habit, and that habit becomes a stronghold. And we're all in that battle every day. So how I overcome that now is I sit with myself and I say, I'm okay. I'm a good guy. I just had a terrible meeting, but God called me to be in that meeting. And all of a sudden I realized, like one rehab guy, they No Longer Bound trained me, by the way, and put me through their program. And he said, Randy, you need to come down off the cross. We need the wood. That hurt. That hurt, Daddy, bad. But I was trying to fix everybody's problems. So I was worn out. So this vicious cycle, I was drinking it being worn out because I'm trying to fix everybody's problems. Don't work, y'all. When you raise your kids and they get a little bit older, you're not going to be able to fix their problems. As I said, I'm not crazy, I'm codependent. You got to let go and trust that God will do what God's going to do. But that's a great question.
What's your advice for helping somebody restore their relationship with God who's so deep in despair with grief that they don't want anything to do with God?
Yeah, say the last part, that they're so deep in what?
They're so deep in despair with grief
Yeah.
that they don't want anything to do with God.
Well, give yourself permission to be patient with yourself. I wanted to get up and run, and it takes time. But we want instant gratification, including feeling good. It hurt, man. And I had to sit there day after day. And then I finally realized after a long time that I trusted God, that God was still working in me, doing a work in me, even though it didn't feel like it. And you need a spiritual director to do that. You can't do it alone.
So like, say this is somebody else though. Like if I'm giving advice to somebody else that like doesn't want anything to do with God, like they had a relationship with God, but you know, a terrible event happened, and so they're so like kind of like what happened with you, and they're so much in grief that they don't want anything to do with God. What do I say to that person? Do I just tell them to be patient?
You hug them up and you say, I'm here, man. You don't say anything. There's a lot of times in my office, I'll give these little coins out. They have the serenity prayer on them, and the other side, praying hands. There's occasionally I'll give the serenity prayer to a guy. He throws it back at me, and he goes, and starts going off. Keep in mind now, all these other little marriage and family therapists at LifeGate, it's all quiet in their office. Sometimes my office gets a little rowdy, But anyway, point being, I go, you know what, man, it's okay. It's all right. Don't worry about it. And they always schedule to come back in. And I'm just there. And if you keep showing up in their lives and you keep praying, every now and then the window will open and you'll get to say something. The big deal is when you do, you better know the scriptures. Be prepared. Because God will call on you. I have had people throw the coin back at me, and 6 months later sitting in my office going, okay, you know that spiritual stuff you were talking about? Tell me about that. And I'm willing to put in years to just get that question asked. I've done it with young life kids. From 7th grade to some of my young life kids never came to club. And now they're in their 30s and 40s hitting walls, and now they're calling me. And I'm going okay with that. I've known you since 7th grade, but now I get a chance to, You need the support though, because I needed the support of going, I'm getting really frustrated here, and this guy's not listening to me. And this is real. It's not uplifting, but sometimes you lose. And I don't understand that. I don't know what God's up to on that, but I have to trust that God knows. And I got to get out of the way of that. But if you keep showing up, that's where God does his work. So, I guess a couple more, one more, two. Yeah, go ahead.
Randy, we know each other. Talk about how, when you talk about change, just repentance, the whole idea, the whole word, like how does that factor into what you're talking about right now?
Yeah, like John, it's really, you said repentance, right?
Right.
Yeah. The amazing thing about it is here's the cross, here's the foot of the cross, here's the other side of the cross. It takes us a lifetime to only get to the foot of the cross and go, okay, God, I'm ready to have the conversation. I'm ready now. That's repentance, not changing your life. Repentance is getting to the foot of the cross and saying, let's talk. Friends, I got 2 broken legs and I'm mad at God. Can you put me at the foot of the cross? And will I be able to let go of my stuff enough to say I'm ready to have the conversation? That's the beginning of repentance. Everybody likes to jump on that cross and say, I'm going to die to myself. It's, baptism. I'm going to go down in the water. I'm going to come out a new creation, washed in the blood of Christ and all that. That's awesome. I believe in that. But this may take 50 years before you get on the cross. Repentance is at the foot of the cross. And, it's a whole nother talk about the other side of the cross, but yeah.
You talked about knowing your purpose versus the purpose that God has for you. Say if you like yourself, you sounded like you were a fantastic coach. In fact, some could say that that's your God-given gift. What's the difference between something like that versus the actual purpose that God has for you?
That's a great question, because it's what's the difference in if you're succeeding in something and you go, that's my purpose. I'm gifted. God has gifted me to be a computer scientist. Okay, that's great. That's a gift. That's a talent that God's bestowed on you, but it may not be God's purpose for your life. You may be doing that job, but God's purpose may be saying, hey, I'm going to show up and I'm going to minister to people. You got to listen to God, and I'm telling you, if you're reading Scripture and you're sitting there with a journal, God's going to reveal what that is, and it's going to be something you would have never thought of, and you're going to write it down, and you're going to go, you want me to sell my insurance agency? It's a different deal. Now, I was just telling the guys, I had to cut a deal with Young Life because I couldn't take that severe cut in pay. So it was 5 or 6 years that the agency paid me out so I could make it happen. There's practicality. But if you're running towards God's purpose, there's a lot of people that say, you know what, Randy, I want to go into the ministry. But they got 3 kids, and they got this, and they got that, and they got a car payment and everything else. There's practicality. You go, well, you may have to go a little bit slower into God's purpose. Or you may be called to the mission field, and you just ditch everything and go. That's between you and God. But I'm saying that the talent that God gives you, you go with and you enjoy, and God gives that as a gift to you, and that will bless others. But then the purpose becomes a different deal where you sit there and go, what do you really want me to be? I want you to be the best husband in your neighborhood, because your neighborhood is a disaster. It could be something so subtle, and only you will know that when God speaks to you.
When you did act on that, you did make that decision.
I'm sorry.
When you did act on that and you did choose to leave the coaching and you did choose to do the path that you're on now, if you could talk a little bit about how you felt internally. Did you feel liberated? I'm sure there was like some fear involved as well, but did you feel a peace within you?
Yeah, I did.
How long did that take?
I coached for 25 or 30 years. And I realized that if I'm open, it's kind of like you get in a rut, right? It's not whether you were a good coach or bad coach. It didn't have anything to do with that. It was like, am I holding my hands this way every day and saying, okay, Lord, what do you want me to do today? You get peace in that. And that's where I was saying, am I going to wake up in my humanness and flesh and say, I quit? I told Coach Muschamp, I'm quitting, I'm out. And the next morning did I wake up and have a peace? And I did. And that meant that was God's voice into my life. And I yearn for that for y'all, that you would hear God's voice. And it doesn't have to be this weird, crazy thing. It could be something subtle. But if you did it, you're going to go, well, that's the first time I felt peaceful in like 2 months. That kind of deal. Did I answer that right? Okay, all right.
That's awesome. Randy, thank
Yeah,
you.
good.
Let's give him a
Okay,
hand. Thanks.
all right. Okay. Yeah.